Kristen Nunn. Happy to be here. A lot of muscles.
The devil whispered, "You cannot withstand the storm." The warrior replied, "I am the storm."
When I hit you up, I'm talking my legacy. Chill off in your favorite accolade, right like a citizen. Know you like my powder beer, post my bill, pay for my lawyer. Play your position, make the mother hoes get out of order. When you wanna get that pussy, you purchase a plane ticket, bro. When you wanna get that pussy, you purchase a plane ticket, bro. When you wanna get that, 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 when you wanna, when you wanna, when you wanna, when you wanna. I'm on some pimp shit, but.
You are stronger than your past, and you are stronger than the challenges coming in your future. The strength I have is like no other. I am not a survivor. I am a warrior. I don't survive. I thrive. I can do this, and I will get through this.
Just take this dick, don't take it personal. The friends probably gon' call you a hoe, but you shouldn't know. The bitches wanna be from the same dick to be second though. And your premonition, you need me and a nigga go. Tryna buy some weed, she will see with nothing but biggies on. Tryna buy some weed, she will see with nothing but biggies on. Tryna buy some.
Hey, thank you for tuning in now and in the future. Thank you, thank you. Well, in the intro, that was one of my favorite athletes, Kristen Nunn. And I really, I'm just fascinated with her arms. I just cannot get over those arms. And, female bodybuilders, female athletes like that, I have a lot of respect for. I know society may not view them as the example of beauty and femininity, whatever that is, but I absolutely respect and admire women who have overcome the odds physically. Now, yes, I'm aware she is taking PEDs, performance enhancing drugs, i.e. steroids, but steroids alone will not get you to look like that. You still have to put in a grueling work ethic over at least 8 to 12 years straight. That is some major discipline. And at that body fat percentage, I think she might be a good 7 or 8 body fat percent of body fat. I mean, it is just insane. It is insane. And I like looking at women who are strong women. I love strong women. I like women who, not just strong in the arms, like not just, I like the strong spirited women. I'm not intimidated by that. I know a lot of guys, they get afraid of that, or they shy away from it or whatever. I welcome it. I like a strong woman. I really don't like those damsels in distress, the pillow princess that all they can do is just sit and look pretty and you're doing all the work, and I just can't with that. I like somebody who has their own thing going and who doesn't mind getting their hands dirty. And so I draw a lot of inspiration from different types of people out there, and Kristen Nunn is one of them, because those arms, I just cannot get over those arms. And women have the odds stacked against them physically when it comes to athleticism and fitness and things like that, because the female body is designed biologically and naturally to retain a higher body fat percentage than the males. So by default, your odds are already stacked against you a little bit more. You're going to have to work that much harder to get the results that you're looking for if you're in this kind of sport, in any kind of sport, really. So I totally have the utmost respect. Krista Nunn is one of those that I absolutely love. Also like a ton of other ones. And, you know, it is, there's something to be said because when you're in the gym working out, you're going to deal with plateaus on a physical level and on a mental level. And when you're someone who comes from a background where you've had to deal with incubators and individuals who are responsible for your birth, who are narcissists, and who are of that dark cluster that we talk about in mental health, then, you know, some of this stuff kind of transfers over. The skills that you learn in the gym and in your fitness journey, those are transferable skills that transfer into other areas of life, including your mental health. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about that because being stuck, breaking through stuckness and plateaus, breaking through stagnation, that stuckness and that stagnation, that is a common thing when you are of that background where you have had these types of dark individuals that were supposed to be in the caretaker role for you. You have that bondage, right? They are all about bondage, domination, and control over you. So that feeling of stuckness and being trapped and stagnation, it's real. And it's something that we've experienced. Those of us who have that background, you know what I'm talking about here. And that even though you may have cut off these people and gotten rid of them in your life, you may still be experiencing residual effects or second order consequences of the abuse that was done to you, you see. Now, we're not going to sit here and blame anyone for our choices today. We're all adults. So, you know, these addictions and these codependencies, they have their root in what happened to us as children and maybe even in our adult years. But now it's good to recognize them for what they are and also have the ability to turn it around, to have more choices, you see. But narcissistic incubators, narcissistic parents, and narcissistic people that you're dealing with, it is not about bonding. They don't bond with you. It is not bonding, but it is bondage. And see, you must understand the difference between bonding and bondage, you see. And there are many ways to break through mental health plateaus, mental health stuckness, which can include depression and anxiety, right? And there are also other kinds of stuckness that you may have to deal with as a result of what you went through with that narc. These translate into codependencies and addictions. The number one biggest codependency and addiction, there's two types, the two main ones. It's other people having codependent relationships, right? And also chemical codependencies, chemical addiction. Most of the United States and the Western Hemisphere, I include Europe and Australia with that, most of the people walking around are dealing with chemical addictions in their lives. And they may not realize it. They may not take it that serious. And I'm not talking about people on heroin or crack or fentanyl or crystal meth. I'm not talking about necessarily that or booze. All those are included in the chemical addiction, but the chemical addiction I'm talking about is food. Yes, food is a drug. Most of the time, These people that are walking around with unhealthy eating, they're not eating raw broccoli out of the ground or fresh grapes. They're eating processed foods that are filled with chemicals that are addictive and that we get addicted to. And we like to reach for these things when we're stressed. How many times have you been stressed at work and you're going to reach for a donut, you're going to reach for an ice cream, you're going to reach for some fried chicken, you're going to reach for some pizza, you're going to get this because you're tired, you've had a long, horrible day at work, and all you want to do is just eat, shower, and lay down and rest, right? That's so many of us. Well, there's nothing wrong with doing that once or twice, but if this is your default, then you're dealing with an addiction. You're dealing with a codependency. You're using something, in this case, chemically processed food, because it's the chemicals you really want. You don't, you think it's this food, but it's really the chemicals in that food, salt, sugar, fat, and all of the other things that go along with that, that's thrown in that food to make it taste good and to get you high, to put you in that food coma. You're getting high. You're using that as a self-medicating process because you're experiencing pain, i.e. stress. So in principle, it's the same thing as if you were smoking crack or if you were drinking booze, because you're still using something as a crutch and you're not working through the actual issue there. And you're giving your power away to time and circumstance. Anything that stresses you, boom, you're back over there reaching for that same thing. And it's not good for you. So again, a lot of this can stem from what you went through as a child dealing with these narcissistic personality disordered caregivers, i.e., quote unquote parents, right? Again, we are not laying blame for what we're doing now. I'm not saying, hey, you overeating or you over drinking or whatever the problem is. It's, you're stuck to what happened to you and you're completely helpless and you can't change it and it's all their fault. No, that's not what we're doing. What we're doing is looking at things for what they are so that we can take those things, heal through recognizing the truth, and then moving past it. And hopefully moving beyond it and healing and having a healthier life. Excuse me. So today I'm going to be talking about focusing on something that's personal to me. One of the ways that I move through stuckness and one of the ways that I have breakthroughs is in the gym and in my eating habits and eating programs and routines, i.e. diet routines. I don't like to use the word diet. There's a lot of trauma attached to that word for me personally, because in the past I've done a lot of starvation diets that were quite traumatic. And I know, I was young and I didn't want to listen to reason. I thought I could just force biology to do what I wanted it to do. And sometimes I still think that way. I still need a little work. I still need a little reality check on that. But one of the things that's been going on with me is that right now, the past month or so, I have reached a plateau. I've reached a weight loss plateau. And you can be doing really good for a long time, but when that plateau hits, it can knock you out. It can knock you out of the whole process. It can be so discouraging that you just give up and say, fuck it, I'm just going to do whatever I want. But plateaus happen and they are a part of life. So all last month, I'm working out like a dog. I'm working out 3 to 5 days a week. I'm spending hours and hours at the gym. I'm tracking all my food. I'm restricting my calories. life is not good some days, because some days I'm really, really hunkering down and restricting, like serious calorie restriction. And, and it's not easy. So at the end of the month, I'm weighing on the scale, and this thing hasn't moved one darn bit. And it's, every week I'm on that scale, and I can't get this motherfucker to continue to move down. And I'm like, what the hell is happening? Like, I'm not even eating the amount of calories I should be eating. I'm working out like a dog, and this thing is no longer moving. It was going well for several months. Like, I'm just like, damn, I'm so happy. Like, it was just like another 2 pounds, sometimes it wouldn't even take a week and I'd have like 3 pounds reduced. So I couldn't figure it out. Another thing was that the scale didn't really match with what I was seeing in the mirror. Like, in the mirror, I'm seeing my body change. I'm getting people telling me, I don't have to ask them. They're coming to me saying, whoa, your arms are getting bigger. Your chest is really popping. It's starting to pop. So I know something is happening, right? My clothes are fitting differently. Certain areas are getting tighter while other areas are getting looser. Like my shirts, in my arm area, they're getting tighter. In my chest, my pecs, it's getting tighter. But then around my belly area, it's getting looser. So I know something is happening because my clothes fit differently. But the scale is not telling me anything new. So I was getting discouraged. I was getting angry. And I began to, I know what plateaus are. It's nothing new to me, but it's easier to tell other people to keep on going through stay at it and stay consistent, even though you have a plateau. It's easier to tell that to someone else than to tell it to yourself when you're going through it. It's a whole other level. Experiential knowledge is a whole other level than just logical knowledge or surface knowledge. So one of the things psychologically that you'll deal with when you are on this fitness journey, you'll have a number of psychological things that you'll deal with. And a lot of places, a lot of people don't really talk about this part. But psychologically, you have got to continue to psych yourself up on a daily basis to keep going. Now, I've done this enough to where it's become a habit. The workouts, they're a habit. My eating, my meals, I've went through this for so long. I already know the number of, I can eyeball my portions. I already know what the calories are, and I'm eating the same types of meal over and over. After a while, you're going to find yourself eating the same few meals over and over. But within all of that, you're still going to have to deal with things like this there will be many times where you feel discouraged, where you feel like everything you're doing, it's not working, it's for nothing, and it's a waste of time. That is normal. And that happens not just in weight loss. In my case, I'm not necessarily doing weight loss, and that's another thing I forgot to tell you. I'm doing something called body recompositioning. So what that really means is you're reducing your body fat percentage while at the same time you want to increase your muscle. Now, body recomp doesn't work for just any type of situation. If you're somebody who already has a very low body fat percentage and you've been working out for some years, this probably isn't going to work for you. So in any case, in my case, I'm actively working out with very heavy weights to gain muscle. And that's something I also have to keep in mind when I'm looking at that scale, right? And the body fat percentage is another thing that it's not going to come overnight. And reducing a body recomp and reducing the body fat percentage, that doesn't come, it's not a straight line. You're going to have peaks and valleys. It's going to fluctuate, you know. And you can get obsessed with that scale a little too much. But these residual after effects, this is really about unraveling codependencies and the things that you're using as crutches. Because once again, when you're dealing with dysfunctional people like that, that's the name of the game, to make you codependent on them, you see. And you were raised since birth. This was inculcated into you to be codependent on this narcissistic parent, you see. It is a form of enslavement and bondage, psychological, emotional, and mental and spiritual bondage. So it doesn't just stay in that little area of your life. As you continue to grow into a person and mature, this bondage and this codependency transfers and translates into other areas of your life. Now, we're all different. For some of us, it may end up being a gambling problem. For some of us, it may be a drinking problem. For some of us, it may be a combination. It may not just be one thing. It might be a codependency on your spouse, as well as a food problem and a drinking problem. You know, it can be a myriad of varieties. It could turn into workaholism. It could turn into porn addictions. It can turn into many, many different problems like that. But one of the ways, you've got to find a way to break through it, right? And one of the ways that I personally find a lot of empowerment in is in the gym, in working out, lifting weights, exercising. I've always been drawn to that. And no one, you know, when I came up, no one was into that. It was strictly out of my own. And, you know, I was told by people, you know, not to pursue that, and, you know, pursue the Lord instead of this stuff, you know, and all this junk that these adults would try to fill my head with when I was younger, you know, just straight garbage. But now back to the to this plateau and stuckness. These tips, if you really look at them from a broader perspective, like I said, you can transfer them in other areas, because the main way to break through stuckness or breaking through a plateau is to change things up. Change. There's that scary word again. Change. Right? And in this case, you want to change the calorie intake, and you want to change the way you're exercising. Also, you want to look at your stress level, getting enough sleep. All of these things play a key role. So you have a number of skills here that you're really working with. It's just like art. You know, when someone says, oh man, I wish I could draw like that. It's not just one skill. It is 5 or 6 composite skills under that umbrella of being able to draw and being able to paint. And a lot of people don't realize that. And this is the same way. You have a composite of skills here that someone has to utilize over a long period of time. A long period of time and a consistent period of time. These skills include self-discipline, self-denial, being able to deny instant gratification every time. Also being able to tolerate hunger. You're going to get hungry whether you eat or not. But a lot of people cannot tolerate the first inkling of hunger. They have to reach for something. And they cannot tolerate being hungry to any degree. So gradually exposing yourself to hunger more and more. Incrementally. And that's another thing. A lot of us, including me, I tend to go over the extreme. So there's self-restraint, that ability of self-restraint. And self-awareness, tracking what you're eating, everything, keeping your integrity. Don't cheat yourself, don't lie to yourself. Track that. Getting food scales, measuring cups, all of these things. These things don't cost a lot, but a lot of people aren't going to go there. They're not going to do it that way. They're not going to go and take care of themselves. And this is part of self-care. The body and the mind has a tendency to adjust to routines. And that's where plateaus come from. And again, you're looking at a change of that routine. You have to change up what you're doing. In this case, you want to keep your body guessing. If you take in the same amount of calories every day, your body's going to adjust. It's going to lower that metabolism, and then it's going to be a little harder, and you're going to have the plateau. If you're doing the same exercises the same way for a long enough time, your body's going to adjust, and you're going to need to increase the weights. You're going to need to increase the intensity a little bit, increase the reps. There's all kinds of ways to do that, right? But you're going to need to change. And transferring this into the bigger picture of life, whatever it is you're dealing with. If you're dealing with mental health, you're dealing with depression, you're dealing with, now that you've cut off these narcissists, now you're going to need to change some things. And the change starts mentally, psychologically. Because if you focus on the externals without having taken care of the inwards, then again, you're going to be susceptible. You're going to be susceptible to be caught up and stuck and in bondage all over again. So, let me see. As far as the weight stuff, I have certain KPIs, key performance indicators. The scale is not the only one. Also the mirror. Also how the clothes fit. And I was able to fit into a pair of jeans today that I had not been able to fit in for over 3.5, almost 4 years. I bought this pair of jeans at Macy's. I bought actually 3 pairs back then. And they were button-fly Levi's, my favorite type. And I took them home and I put them on, and I realized I can put them on, but I can't wear them. They are so tight. They were pinching into my flesh. I couldn't even sit down. So I was so disheartened. I just left them in the closet, didn't even take the tags off or anything. And so finding myself in a plateau, a weight loss plateau, the scale is not budging no matter what I do. I'm telling you, it was just, you have no idea. You have no idea what I put myself through in the gym. I don't put anyone else through any kind of anything that I haven't put myself through first in the gym. I don't believe in doing things halfway. In fact, I'm probably one of those people that does it like 3 and 4 times over again just for good measure when it's already done the first round. Right? So I started looking up some YouTube videos on breakthrough plateaus and breaking through plateaus and becoming unstuck and all of that. And, I really didn't learn anything that I didn't already know. But it prompted me. One of the guys was like, look at how your clothes fit. And I thought, well, I know my clothes fit differently. I know I see it in the mirror. And others are also telling me things. So let me pull out those jeans that I haven't been able to wear for some years. And I just knew them things weren't going to fit. I just knew I wasn't going to be able to even put, get my leg through there. And do you know what? Sure enough, not only was I able to put them on, but I was able to wear them. And I had a little extra room. I just couldn't believe it. I'm so happy. So I finally have some nice new pairs of Levi's to wear. I'm so happy. So what happened here? What happened? The scale wasn't moving. In fact, one day that I weighed, it said I weighed 8 pounds more. It said I gained 8 pounds. Of course, the next day was back down to the regular weight. So I was just like, what happened? Well, you know what happened? These digital scales are not 100% accurate. And I went and researched and looked at some of the reviews on that scale and other scales. And that's what I found out, is that for the most part, the weight part is probably going to be accurate, but the body fat percentage and the muscle mass and all that, there's a lot of room for error there. And even with the weight is not the full story. The weight is not, the actual weight on the scale is not the full story. And I know that's true because when I go to the gym and weigh in their scale, it's a totally different number than my scale at home. And then the scale at the doctor's office is still yet another number. And see, my doctor is very bone thin. He is just super, super thin. Oh, I think he might be a little anorexic, actually. I would never want his body shape. I personally, as a man, I like to take up a lot of space. I like to have people look at me and understand that there's a certain amount of respect that you're going to have to give me because of my size, and I just feel like if I was a very petite, thin guy, I would get my ass beat all the time. Like, people would just walk all over me. I just feel that way. And so I like to take up a lot of space, but I do want to be healthy, and I want to recomposition my body. I really would love to be a really heavy, muscular guy with very low body fat percentage. I know that the weight scale is one thing, but that's really what I would love now. That's a high ticket. That's going to take some years. But I'm quite muscular now. I don't have the biggest muscles. I'm always wanting more. I think every guy always wants more. No matter how many muscles you have, you always want more. But I'm not trying to get all skinny. That's not going to happen. I'm trying to reduce the body fat and boost that muscle. So that's what happened, is that the scale isn't always the final answer. And sometimes it's not even the most accurate answer. And you have to use a multiple prong approach. The scale, the mirror, and your clothes, and the tape measure. So that's that for that. And as far as transferring that into dealing with mental health effects from having dealt with narcissists, you can really work through that. You can really work through that in a very positive way in the gym. A lot of these bodybuilders, when you look at their histories, they come from broken homes, they come from abused childhoods, and that was one of the ways that they worked through it, was through lifting weights and exercising and getting into the fitness thing. Some of them turn to CrossFit. They're not all bodybuilders or power lifters. I personally just love powerlifting. I love bodybuilding because it just takes, it's iron therapy. You can let loose. You can really release a lot of energy and emotion into your workout. And it is an amazing way to connect with your higher self, with the divine. A lot of people don't know that you can use the exercises in the gym, that time that you're in the gym, to actually connect to your higher self and commune with your God. And if you're not a religious person or a spiritual person, you can connect with your true self. your better self. You can get back to grounding yourself through these exercises and through the workouts in the gym. So that is one of the things that I love to do. I personally do a lot of ritual work in the gym. Rituals don't always have to be with robes and altars at home. They can also be done. I'm all for postmodern magic and postmodern occult practices. So being a city person and sometimes not having a whole lot of time, you have to do other things, and you can turn anything into a ritual. If you know how to construct true ritual construction, you can turn your whole life into a ritual. And so that's one of the things that I do when I work out at the gym is I have a strong spiritual component to my work where I'm communing and connecting, and I am also changing. The change starts within first, which then translates into my physical body changing, but also my physical life course is altered. You see? And this is what I'm bringing to you, is that finding something to help you stay grounded, to help you grow, and to help you work through that. Counseling, of course, is a big deal. The psychological component, but also you need a physical component, an exercise, regular exercise, and also you need a nutritional component. I'm a strong believer in at least trying to eat healthy, and I myself have fallen short more often than I can count. Most people will have issues with it. It's not easy. It is not easy, especially because we're in a culture and in a society where we're taught to eat and be gluttons. I know that a lot of people don't want to admit that, but yes, our culture is one of greed and excessive consumption and gluttony. The American portions, the food portions, are excessive. They're gluttonous. We think this is normal. This is okay. If they put that on our plate, then that's what we're supposed to eat. So we eat it. Not thinking that, hey, these portions are excessive. Not until you actually get into tracking your food and finding out what your BMR is, what your base amount of calories are to keep you alive. A lot of people don't even know what that is. And then when you actually look at how many calories a day you are to consume to maintain your weight, to have a healthy weight, it's a lot less than what you've been eating. So it takes some adjustment to scale yourself down to that level, because you're used to eating way more than that. I mean, you can drink 3,000 or 4,000 calories in a couple of Starbucks frappuccinos, one of those large mocha frappuccinos with whipped cream and all the extra stuff. Yeah, you can literally drink 3,000 calories worth of stuff in about 10-15 minutes and still be hungry. You drink 2 of them frappuccinos and you're ready to eat a pizza. And before you know it, you got like 5,000-6,000 calories that you've consumed, and it's not even dinner time yet. Yeah. Okay. So again, you want to be aware of that, because here's the thing. If you ignore these things, not only do you risk having diseases like diabetes and heart attack and obesity, but also it translates into the psychological realm. You've got vulnerabilities there that are going to be exploited by these narcs. They're going to be exploited by these narcs. Excuse me. So that's where we're at with that today. I want to mention a couple of side things here I saw in the news. You know, speaking of narcs, I don't know if you heard about that mayor that shot at a family out there in Rufus, Oregon. Yeah, a mayor out there in Oregon, in the town called Rufus, Rufus. Forget the mayor's name. But the story is that there was a road rage. He was upset. I don't know, maybe he got cut off in traffic by someone. I can't imagine the traffic being all that big of a deal because it's only 260 people in that town. But anyway, he took his handgun, that mayor, and just started shooting at this family with, it was a family of four. It was a mom and dad, and then it was two kids, 8 and 5 years old. Luckily, no one was hurt. But can you imagine what could have easily happened? Can you just imagine? I mean, I just don't understand. This is a town of 260 people. He had to have known these people. You can't tell me that you didn't know who you were shooting at. It's only 260 people in the whole town. Everybody knows everybody. These people probably voted for you. But this is a narc, if not worse. Sociopath, psychopath. Again, you know, when you look at these people, you wouldn't be able to tell. And I'm sure there's people out there that would say, oh, I don't believe he ever did that. He's just the nicest man ever. Right? But that's narcs. That's the narc mentality. That's the narcissist. It's all about them and their revenge. Like when they feel they've slighted, that you've slighted them, maybe you've just said no to them. Maybe they wanted something from you and you said, no, I don't want to do that. Well, to them, now you've slighted them in the worst way. And, you know, fair game. Anything's fair game. They'll pull out the handgun and just try to shoot at you. So what if a child ends up losing their mom? Or so what if somebody loses their child? An innocent child has to die for your ego gratification. Yeah. I'll tell you, speaking of another narc, this rapper Kanye West, oh man, I'm telling you, this guy has really, really started to make things unsafe. This guy, he's African American, but he seems to be anti-African American. He says that slavery never happened, and if it did, it was voluntary, that the people wanted to be slaves. He's apparently, he has this academy, this private school, Donda Academy, where the teachers were quitting, and I think they had to shut it down, and then the teachers came out and said that he is obsessed with Hitler. And then some people that were working on his last album with him, producers or agents or something, they said that he was going to title his last album Hitler. And they were able to convince him to not do that. His last album called Ye or Ye, Y-E, whatever that's supposed to mean, it was supposed to be actually called Hitler, and that he has a big obsession with Hitler. So out here in LA, after this guy came out with the anti-Semitic comments about Jewish people, out here in LA, we started having people come out of the woodworks with banners saying that he was right, Kanye is right about the Jews, and putting, you know, Hitler signs and making Hitler, seek Heil Hitler and all of that. And it is very, very, very concerning. Number one, I'm offended. I'm very much offended. I wasn't raised Jewish. I had no idea that I had Jewish ancestry until I took some DNA tests in the recent past here. In the very recent past, I spent a pretty penny, and I wanted to go ahead and take my DNA tests with all of the major DNA places: Ancestry DNA, 23andMe, MyHeritage, My True Ancestry, Genome Link, GeneaNet, Family Tree DNA, and a couple of other ones that aren't all that well known. Because, number one, not all DNA places cover all of your DNA, and places like Ancestry DNA and My True Heritage and 23andMe, they only go back so far because they're more for genealogical research, whereas a place like Genome Link and My True Ancestry, they go back 200,000 years and more. So, of course, you're going to find out a lot more about your ancestry the further back you go, right? And because people migrate all over the globe from different places, you're going to find a lot more ethnicities with a place like Genome Link than you would with a place like Ancestry DNA. Also, one place may find that you have some Iberian in you, and the other place may not even test for that. So that's why I went and tested with multiple places, because I wanted to be as thorough about my ancestry as possible. And in the midst of all that, I discovered I had over 14 different ethnicities. Basically, my ancestry covers almost the whole globe, if not the whole globe. So within that, I found out I have some European, Eastern European Jewish ancestry. Eastern European Jewish ancestry. So again, I wasn't raised as a Jewish person, but in my adult years, when I began to do different studies, I found myself being drawn to the Jewish current. Of course, that wasn't the only current I was drawn to. I was drawn to quite a few different things. But I've always been drawn and had a spiritual resonance with the Kabbalah. And in the years past, I didn't understand why. I just knew that I felt a very strong resonance. And now it makes sense, right? And I had that with many different cultures. Asian is, I've always been teased for my eyes. Where as early as I can remember in first grade in Germany, my fellow classmates, they would either call me a derogatory term that they would use for Turkish kids, because I looked a lot like the Turkish kids compared to the other German kids. And my eyes are not round. So they would pull their eyes back at me and call me Chinese chinky and make fun of me. And, I'd get into a lot of fights over that. When I came here in the U.S., my only friend for the first few years was a kid that was half Korean. And so they thought we were brothers. And my first job, well, actually my second job, my first job was also in the mall, but that didn't last long. So my second job was with Chinese people at a Chinese cafe in the mall. And I started hanging out with all of the people there. Some of them were Chinese, a lot of them were Mexican, a lot of them were Laotian and Thai. So I had a large portion of my friends that were of Asian descent. And I fit right in, like I never felt different. And of course, I blended in. I kind of could blend in. You could tell I wasn't full-blooded of Asian, but my eyes kind of gave me a passing vibe of sort, quote unquote passing. And a lot of the women that I've dated just so happen to be of the Asian persuasion: Vietnamese, Chinese, Korean, Thai, Laotian, Philippine. And, the funny thing is, I've been pursued. It wasn't like I said, oh, I just want to date Asian women. Well, I'm just going to go and date this Asian woman. It just kind of always happened like that. So, again, I found myself blending in very well. And then when these DNA tests came back to me, I realized, oh, well, now it makes sense. And I found out I had some Asian ancestry: Korean, Vietnamese, Indian, Japanese, and Chinese. I also have some African ancestry. So I'm very offended by what this Kanye person, Kanye West, is saying. And he's making things scary. He's causing alarm. I personally check off all of the boxes for these types of people that have targets, right? They target blacks, they target Jews, they target LGBT people, And I have ancestry from all of these things. And I'm LGBT, I'm transgender, and I'm an immigrant. So, I tick off all the boxes that these people target in people. So when I see people going after Jewish people, they may as well be going after me, because I'm part Jewish. If I see people go after black people, they're going after me because I have ancestry from Africa. I have ancestry from Egypt. I have ancestry from the Congo. Oh gosh, I mean, it's just all over the place. When they're targeting LGBT people, they're targeting me. When they're targeting immigrants, they're targeting me. When they're trying to build the wall and send people back to Mexico and put them in cages and split up their families and all that, put them in the FEMA camps, I'm worried because they're coming after me. I have Hispanic heritage. I have Puerto Rican ancestry. I have Native American ancestry. So, when I see these things, I know they're coming after me. And this is what I told my fellow immigrants that are not from Europe. It kills me. It kills me because just because you're white presenting and you can blend in physically better than somebody of black skin doesn't mean you're safe with these people. You might try to play up on them and buy into their ideals, their ideology, and they'll smile in your face and put their arm around you and say, bless your heart, but you have no idea when it comes down to it, if they could, and that's what they're working for, if they could, do you know they will have your butt swinging off them trees, lynched just like any black person? A lot of these immigrants, I'm just shaking my head at them, I see a lot of these Mexican-American immigrants and Filipino immigrants, and, they buy into a certain ideology thinking they're safe. And I have to shake my head because I've seen it. I know the words that are said when certain people aren't around. And guess what, folks? They're going to call you the N-word like they call the black people. Okay? You're not exempt. If you're Puerto Rican, if you're Mexican, if you're Filipino, if you're Korean, hell, even if you're German, you might be snow lily white in your appearance. You might have blonde hair, blue eyes from Scandinavia and German. And guess what? You're still going to get called the N-word. And if it comes right down to it, they'll have your ass swinging from a tree just like all the rest because you're not white American. And see, a lot of people out here, they've drunk that Kool-Aid and they're living in a very dangerous delusion. Okay? I'm just here to tell you, they're living in a very dangerous delusion, but you couldn't tell them that. You can't tell them nothing. Can't tell them nothing. You know what I mean? And with me, I consider myself, I'm racially ambiguous in my appearance. I can blend in just about any race or culture. I really can. All depends. Out here in LA, it can be a curse and a blessing. I can go to places like Glendale and I can be Armenian. I can go over here to East LA and be Hispanic. Be clocked as Mexican. I can go to Filipino town and be clocked as Mestizo Pinoy. I can go to other places and be clocked as other things. And sometimes it works to my advantage. Sometimes it doesn't, I mean, if the police pull me over, I want to be clocked as Snow Lily White, but that's not going to happen. I've got some quote unquote exotic features. My eyes alone, they might be, my eyes, the shape of my eyes is going to give me away right away alone. And then, maybe my hair is going to look a little, exotic. And if I've been in the sun a little too long, you can forget about it. They're going to pull out their ARs and their M16s and get ready to shoot me for a speeding ticket. I mean, this is what we're talking about here. And not all police do that, but, I've experienced it. I was pulled over while walking on Venice Beach with a beer can in my hand. I didn't know you weren't supposed to drink on the beach. I mean, I come from, I used to go to Florida beaches. They didn't have that where you can't drink beer on the beach. So I didn't know. There's no signs saying no drinking on the beach. So I had this one beer can. Just minding my business. I bought it from the convenience store on the boardwalk, walking back to the place where I was with my friends, and here pull up not one, not two, not three, not four, but five. You hear me? 5 police SUVs filled with cops, and they all come out, and 3 of them had AR rifles, automatic rifles in their hands, in position, ready. And I had never, ever experienced that. That was so scary. And mind you, all I had on was a pair of swimming trunks. Wet swimming trunks. Okay? I didn't have a top on. Swimming shorts. Clearly you can see I don't have any weapons. Clearly you see I'm not a danger. And I was very cooperative. And I was just like, I just sat there. My friends were like frozen. I was frozen. We were all looking at each other. And, it was just scary. Like, these people were ready to fucking shoot me. If I did one false move, they were going to take those ARs and blast me to smithereens. Yeah. And why? I venture to say because I didn't look like somebody that they wouldn't want to shoot. Okay, a lot of Hispanic people out here, a lot of Asian people just get shot. They don't care. They're just going to shoot you. They don't care what the issue is. If they feel like they want to shoot you, they're going to shoot you. And that's a very scary thing to go through. So, when I see other fellow immigrants and I call them white people of color, Mexicans, Asians, okay, the skin color isn't black. But you're still, quote unquote, colored to these people, okay? That's another thing they don't understand. I've lived in the Deep South. I've seen and observed many years of what these types of mentalities are about. And some of them can hide it a lot better than others, but in the time that we're in, I think a lot of them like to just be bold now. They feel emboldened, and it is a narcissistic mentality. Again, we're better than these other people, and they don't deserve to really live. That's basically it. When you're dealing with a narcissistic mentality, it's a cult. And see, a lot of these people don't understand that the Nazis not only victimized Jewish people, but they victimized their own people, their own German people. The lie wasn't just about the Jews, but the lie was the whole Nazi thing. Many Germans were victimized because they wanted to breed the women. The women had to breed and have these babies. And then these babies were taken, and trained to be Hitler Youth. I mean, these kids didn't have parents. I mean, can you imagine growing up institutionalized for an ideology that no longer exists after you become an adult, because of the World War and the Allies and all of that. And here you are, you've been taught, that your race is going to take over, and the end of everyone else, and the people that look like you are the only ones deserving to be here, and the rest need to be gassed and killed. It's the same thing that these churches do. They're just not gassing people because they can't get away with it, but they may as well be, because they're saying, hey, we're God's chosen people. We're the chosen people here. And the ones that aren't like us, our God is going to kill and destroy them and give us this world and this planet. It's basically the same mentality. And back to the narcissistic parent, it boils back down to that. That's what they have. That narcissistic person will never, ever, ever take responsibility. It's always someone else's fault. It's your fault. It didn't even happen. You're just imagining it. They'll gaslight you. They'll manipulate you. It's crazy making. And that's exactly what they want to do. They want to break you down to where you can no longer fight back. And to where they can completely take over. Like the parasites they are. The pernicious parasites they are. You see? So you've got to have some regular maintenance and program to break through that. And one of the best ways is weightlifting. Pumping iron. It's not just to look good. Yeah, that's going to happen. You do it long enough and you do it right, you're going to look better and better and better. But that's only the icing on the cake, because the real work happens inside. You see, the amount of pain and discomfort that you increase yourself to incrementally and gradually over time, and the fact that you're staying consistent despite any kind of obstacles, be they psychological or physical obstacles, you're staying consistent and you're pulling through and you're pushing through. That right there, that narc can't fuck with it. Can't. No, nothing can fuck with that. You see? Because that develops your willpower, your power of will. If you got a strong will, you have some extra super strong willpower, like what is going to be able to compete with that? Nothing, you see? So I just wanted to talk to you a little bit about that today. Breaking through stuckness, breaking through plateaus, breaking through stagnation, and reviewing some of these things, the tendency for codependency that we tend to have. All of us tend to have codependencies, whether you've had a perfect childhood, which there's no such thing, but whether you've had some nice parents or whether you've had some very sick parents. That codependency, it's something that we all probably have to deal with to some extent or another, but because those of us who have had certain situations in our past, that codependency tends to be a stronger tendency. And you must take extra time and energy to work at yourself and be aware that you're going to be more leaning into these codependencies than the average person, okay? And those are the cards you've been dealt with, but you're not powerless to it. So you know what I'm going to tell you. Get in there in that gym and pump some iron. You know what I mean? I know if you haven't been doing this kind of work, it may seem daunting, but you know you got to start somewhere. Dip your toe in that water, okay? Get in there and lift some weights. And if you haven't been lifting weights, you're not a weight lifter, you don't know where to start, start with the light weights. Start with those light weights and work your way up. Take yourself some time. And be sure to do that mind-body connection between that muscle that you're working and your mind. You want to connect that. You don't want to just lift willy-nilly. You really want to do the exercise properly, keep proper form, and you want to stay focused. And some advanced stuff, of course, you know, you're performing ritual work as you're exercising, but that's a little bit more advanced, and that's probably something for another video. But once again, I appreciate you tuning in. I appreciate you giving me feedback on some of this stuff. And we'll talk again real soon. All right. Talk to you soon.